tuned in to the Andrew Lawton Show.
We are going to move to a local story, which I think is one that may have national implications here, and that is the by-election in Portage, Lisgar, which is one of the most conservative ridings in Canada. And if you need evidence of that, you need not look further than the results in the last few elections. It was previously held by Candace Bergen, who was, up until recently, the interim leader of the Conservatives. And Candace Bergen, and I'm just pulling up the numbers here, she won that riding in 2021 with 52%. But it also happened to be the strongest showing for the People's Party of Canada in the last election, with the PPC candidate getting 21.58% of the vote. Well, now that there is a by-election, we have a Conservative, Brandon Leslie, running, but we also have Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada, who has stepped up to seek a seat in the House of Commons once again, and he joins me now. Maxime, good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm very pleased to be with you.
So obviously you are not a Manitoban. Why are you choosing this riding to run in?
Because, like you said, it may be one of the most conservative riding in the country. And like I said, the Conservative Party of Canada is conservative only in name. They're fake conservative, and I will tackle the real conservative issues, family values. That's why today I said to people here in Portage, Lisgar, that, if I'm elected, I will table a bill on abortion. Can you believe that, Andrew? We don't have any legislation on abortion for 35 years. The Conservative did nothing the last 35 years. And I said, enough is enough. We need to have a legislation that will forbid late-term abortion, and that was a discussion of today. And it is in line with the values of the people here in this riding. But the fake Conservative won't speak about that. Actually, Poilievre won't say the word abortion. He is too afraid of the mainstream media and also the radical leftist feminists. We are not. It's a common sense political party, and that's why I'm running here. And it's a little bit like in Beauce. In Beauce, that was a rural riding. It's a rural riding here, and I'm very pleased also that there's a francophone community here in Portage, Lisgar. So I'm here, I'm running here, and I will be with them before the election, during the election, and after the election.
Since you bring up the abortion issue, I wanted to get to that with you anyway. Let me just first contextualize this for people. Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice?
I'm a guy that wants to have a debate, and that's why I'm tabling that legislation. I said we must do the first step, Andrew. We didn't have any legislation. We are the only country. All the European countries have legislation on abortion, and usually it's illegal to have an abortion the second trimester. In my legislation, I'm saying we must end the late-term abortion. It must be illegal for a woman to have an abortion after 6 months. And so I believe that every reasonable person must agree with that. And I'm saying to Pierre Poilievre right now at your show, Pierre, why do you want on-board babies to be killed after 6 months of pregnancy? Why? If you agree with me, why you don't want to reopen the debate? And so answering your question, Andrew, I think that ideally we must have a legislation that will ban abortion the second trimester. Like all European countries and all across the world, we don't have that. But let's start by having that discussion in Parliament, and I believe that it will be easy if we have reasonable people in Parliament to adopt that. Because, killing a baby a couple of hours before giving birth, that's happening in our country. And I know that the radical feminists will say, oh, no, it's theoretical, it won't happen. It is. I said this morning at my press conference, every year in Quebec, and I just have the data in Quebec, the Quebec government, and in Quebec we have late-term abortion, 20 women every year, they are having a late-term abortion in my own province in Quebec. And so that's the case. And we need to change that. We need to have this debate. And I'm opening that debate right now.
Yeah, but again, it was a pretty direct question. Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice, personally?
I would be very direct, Andrew. I won't answer your question. I won't, because the reality is this bill is there, and the goal is to end late-term abortion. And I will answer your question by that answer. Ideally, it would be great to have a legislation that will ban abortion at the second trimester, like all civilized country. It's time for Canada to be part of the civilized world. So, and that's why I'll have a lot of pro-life people here in this riding that agree with me. You know, you need to start.
I want to just get to the precision on here, on Maxime, because the legislation that you put forward, I agree. It's a disgrace that Canada has no law on abortion on the books. And the bill that you've announced this morning would cap it at 24 weeks, as I understand. Now, data are very hard to come by in Canada on this, but it's a minority of abortions that take place after 24 weeks. I've seen estimates that we could be in hundreds of individual abortions, on the high end, maybe 8 to 9%. But most abortions are before 24 weeks. So do you think that should be a woman's right to choose before 24 weeks?
But you're right about the number. And yes, you know, if we had only one abortion, late-term abortion, it's one murder that we must not have. First, answering your question, yes, I said ideally we must have that discussion. In Europe, it's all about the second term, and it's you know, they are regulating abortion at the second term. And yes, we need to have that discussion, but we need to start that discussion before that. So let's have the legislation. Let's approve that legislation in Parliament as soon as possible. And yes, my personal position on that is, and then so yes, it must be at the second term. You know, a lady will have 3 months to decide if she wants to be have an abortion or not. 3 months, it's a lot. But that's why I said I want to have a victory here. We never had the victory the last 35 years. And the conservatives are so weak. They don't have any conviction. They're afraid to speak about abortion. Look, like last week, Trudeau said to Poilievre, oh, you want to reopen the debate on abortion? And oh, no, Poilievre, no, I don't want to reopen the debate. And actually, if you read the policy declaration on the website of the Conservative Party of Canada at page 30, policy 76, they're saying, and I just want to read that to you, they're saying that a conservative government won't reopen the debate on abortion. They won't table any legislation on abortion. That's their policy. That must change. And if we vote for a conservative candidate here, it won't. And I understand that people in this riding understand that.
I'm curious about your evolution on this issue. I know in the past you voted against pro-life legislation. I think there was 1 year ago about coerced abortion under the Harper government that you voted against. I think Stephen Woodworth had introduced a motion. So where has your perspective shifted, or how has your perspective shifted on this?
In 2018, when we created the People's Party of Canada, and at the 2019 election, I said that during that election that, you know, we need to reopen the debate. And I had a strong position at that time. I said I'm against sex selection abortion. I'm against late-term abortion. So that was a position. And you're right to say that when I was an MP under the Conservative, as a Conservative, under the Harper government, I did vote for a bill that was viewed as pro-choice. But that's why people here in this riding understand that, and they're very happy that I did that evolution. And now they have a strong leader of a populist, conservative, true conservative party, common sense party that is ready to have that debate. And because I'm raising that debate, journalists will ask questions to Poilievre today, if not tomorrow. And I hope you'll do that, Andrew. Ask him the question, why are you so afraid to reopen the debate? When we have 51% of the population, Angus Reid, 2020 survey, 51% of Canadians said, enough is enough, we need to end late-term abortion. And Poilievre, like all these other important issues, he won't speak about it. He won't speak about climate change and the Paris Accord. He's in line with the Paris Accord. We will withdraw from the Paris Accord. He's taking the conservative vote for granted out west, And people in this riding understand that. And that's why I believe that people here will make history like they did in 1989 when they elected for the first time a Reform Party candidate, Deborah Bray. Deborah, when they elected her in 1999, that was the first one in a by-election, and after that, the Reform had 51 MPs at the next election, and the other next one, they were the official opposition. So people in this riding understand that they can make history, and we can have national debates on important issues for the future of our country.
And I will. We've invited your conservative opponent onto the show, and we will ask him about this because I agree. And you're not saying anything that I find offensive in wanting there to be a debate on this. The question has been about whether you are, I think, the most likely candidate to bring up that debate. So let me just ask you one more question on abortion here, Maxime, because a lot of pro-life advocates reject what's called the gestational approach, which you've just articulated, which is putting a limit in a certain place, because they think that if you say abortion is not acceptable after 24 weeks, you're saying it is acceptable at other points. And I go back to your own personal conviction on this. If you could write any law you wanted, not just what you think is politically saleable, but what your ideal scenario would be, when should abortion be a choice and when should it no longer be a choice for women?
I answered that question at my press conference. I said, ideally, it must be at the second term, like every country in Europe. So I'm asking these radical feminists, why, in Italy, France, Belgium, Germany, why it's okay.
Very liberal countries a lot of the time, too.
Yeah, and they're progressive countries. You're absolutely right. And these, elites, journalists are going, I know that from Quebec, that some of them are going to Italy for their summer. But, they have a legislation on abortion, and you cannot have an abortion after the second trimester. So it must be a discussion here, and I'm very pleased that I'm bringing that. Speaking about my opponent, he will be with you. And he may say that he agrees with my position, but that's not the question. The question, he can say what he wants in the writing, but when he'll be in Ottawa, he will be silent. The question is the leader, Poilievre. That's the question, because they are controlling their MP on abortion. We know that. I was part of that team. I know that. So he can't say anything about abortion. It's not important, and people in this writing will know. They know that it's coming from the leader of the party. He is pro-choice. And he won't allow any debate. So I'm very, very pleased that we will ask that question to my opponent. But please ask that question to my opponent as a leader, to Pierre Poilievre. That's the most important answer that we must have, that Canadians must have.
Let's turn to the riding itself here. So we were discussing earlier, Maxime, the PPC did very well in Portage Lisgar relative to everywhere else in the country. It was the strongest riding, and I know you obviously want to win, but as far as the bigger picture here, what do you consider a win short of a victory on the ballot? I mean, do you feel that you need to get that 20% of the vote to prove that the PPC is still the force it was in 2021?
I like your question, Andrew. A win is a win. So a win for me will be to be the MP for people in Portage Lisgar. And I'm here campaigning full-time for them. My schedule is full, and I'm very pleased with that. So for me, a win is to be their MP the night of the election. And I believe that it's doable. We have a strong team, and people understand they have the opportunity to send a message to Ottawa right now. And, it's not about splitting the vote. That ridiculous argument is not valid. We won't change the government. The Trudeau government will be there after the election. So it's safe for them to vote for the PPC and to vote for me. And actually, I will be their insurance policy that Poilievre, if he has the courage to be a conservative, I will support him. But I will bring that debate in Ottawa, and I will support Poilievre when or if he is a real conservative with real conservative family values. So it's a win-win for people in this riding, and they understand that. That's why my answer to your question is a win is a win.
No, and I appreciate that. And it's always funny when you see politicians who lose and then they get on stage and try to find a way to make it seem like they really won, like the popular vote or something. But the point I guess that I was getting at there, Maxime, is that a lot of political columnists in Ottawa, who I know are not always the most credible sources, have said that the PPC's success in 2021 was kind of a temporary blip because of the pandemic. There was this frustration with all of these circumstances that might not be there right now. And I guess I'm just curious what for you the stakes are if you don't do as well as your candidate in 2021 did.
I must say, Andrew, that all these mainstream media journalists, they said the same thing in 2019 when we had 1.6% of the vote. They said, oh, that's the end of that party. Goodbye, Bernier. Mm-hmm. They all wrote that. And now after the last election, 5%, they were a little bit surprised and didn't have any choice to cover my election the last 3 weeks of the last campaign. And now they're saying, and 5%. And now they're saying, oh, Bernier won't do anything. He won't be able to have 20%, 25%. He won't be able to do like his candidates. So I don't want to answer that. For me, they're not credible. I'm here on the ground with the people. And that's why I believe I can win this riding. And I spoke with my people on the ground, and they are in agreement with me, and they're working hard for that. We'll see what will happen. But for me, I strongly believe that it's a riding that I can win, and I'm doing all the effort to do that. So what these journalists are writing, it's not important for me, and I don't mind.
Manitoba is a bit of an interesting province for you to be running in because you're a convict in Manitoba now. I mean, as of yesterday, the court has put this, I think it was a $2,000 fine on you for campaigning in Manitoba. And I played that clip of your arrest back then when you gave that famous line and the police officer asked if you had any weapons and you said only your words, which I thought was quite brilliant and quite clever. But let's talk about why you decided to not fight this as much, because a lot of people have been looking at the legal challenges that are underway and really hoping that there's going to be this reckoning in the court system on COVID penalties. But you actually pleaded out, as I understand.
Yeah, no, what I said, it's very important. I didn't say that I'm guilty of anything because under a provincial law, you're not guilty. So what I said, to save money for the taxpayer here in Manitoba and to save court time, because it was supposed to be a 3 days hearing, it was only half a day. I said, and I'm a responsible politician. I said, yes, I was there. I did a meeting in a park, and I didn't want all the police and all these witnesses saying that I was there. So I did admit that I was there, and I did that. I did admit that it was not in line with the regulations at that time. So because of this admission of facts, we had an argument only on the penalties, the fines. So. And you ask a good question. Why not appealing to that decision and going to the appeal court? Because here in Manitoba, there one case that is right now in front, before the appeal court of Manitoba about the same subject, illegal gathering in a park. So that's why we will have a decision from the appeal court maybe this year about that. So I didn't need to appeal that. So for me, I'm responsible. I said I was that. And also I had time to speak to the judge, and I told the judge that all these regulations were unconstitutional, illegal, immoral, and I'm not appealing your decision because there's a case and we'll know what the appeal court will say. But at the same time, don't forget, Andrew, I'm appealing a decision from the federal court with Brian Bedford about my right and the right of Canadians to be able to travel freely across our country. We are appealing the decision of the vaccine passport that were imposed by the Trudeau government because we had a decision not in our favor at the federal court. So we are appealing that, and we will go up to the federal court, to the Supreme Court, about that case.
All right, Maxime Bernier, by-election candidate in Portage Lisgar and leader of the People's Party of Canada. What are you most looking forward to about being back on the campaign trail?
Yes, I'm going back. We have a rally tonight with Laurelyn Thompson, and it's a huge riding. I'm a little bit surprised, going to one part of the riding to the other part of the riding by car. It can be 2 hours. So I'll be on my car. I will be in each corner of this riding, and I'm having fun here. I know that you may see it, but I'm having fun. It's great. We'll see, and I hope that you'll be able to cover our campaign. And I'm very pleased that I had the opportunity to be with you, Andrew.
All right. Thank you very much, Maxime Bernier. Good to talk to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.